love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just give it up. Don't be scared. I'm so gone, no I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad. Cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad. I stay strong, you will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math. When I hate, I attack. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just give it up. Don't be
Welcome to Daikaiju Network, where we have a healthy obsession with kaiju. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host,
Jason. How's it going, everyone?
All right, so after almost a month, we are back from being
dead.
rested up from our 5.5 hour episode to end off 2022, and we decided, hey, why not podcast again? And then I got into it, and then I'm like, uh-oh, I don't know how to do this. It's like riding a bike again. But here we are, and we are back to the same old thing that we were doing prior to December, which is we're going to continue our coverage of Kamen Rider, the original series, and then Spectre Man as well. And so today we are covering episodes 13 through 15 of Kamen Rider. And so before we get into any of that, I just want to say something right off the bat here, and then Jason will do some other housekeeping work here. As of right now, we are attempting to put together something for the month of March to celebrate the 90th anniversary of King Kong. We're not entirely sure yet as far as exactly what we're going to do yet, but we're kind of looking into that. And then this year, being the 25th anniversary of the 98 Godzilla, we are potentially floating around the possibility of maybe doing something in May as well to celebrate 25 years of that as well. But for sure, we're going to be doing something in March. We're just not entirely sure yet as far as exactly what we're going to do. So,
Mhm.
with that, Jason, housekeeping, and then we can get right into Kamen Rider.
Yeah, as far as housekeeping, if you're currently watching us over on YouTube, if you see the red subscribe button down below, make sure to hit that subscribe button to subscribe to us. As far as getting notification, also hit the notification bell icon, and hit the like button as well. And as far as the notification bell, uh, could get the latest updates on as far as when we upload any new videos or when we go live. Uh, in that regards, and as far as finding us everywhere, all in one place at our Linktree URL displayed on your screen there, Linktree/Daikaiju Network. And as far as video platforms besides YouTube, we're on Twitch, Rumble, Facebook Live, and as well as Odyssey. And we have audio versions of our episodes over at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. And you can find both video and audio versions of our episodes over at our own website at daikaijunetwork.com.
Awesome. So let's dive right into Kamen Rider episodes 13 through 15. I have to say, though, when I was preparing for this episode here the other day, um, there was a part of me, I'm like, you know what? It feels good to get back to these shows, even though, yeah, they're pretty goofy and all that. And, we've kind of criticized them up to a point, but at the same time, I think we've been understandable in terms of like, okay, yeah, these were shows that were sort of rushed into production for the most part, short
With
production
low
schedules, in
budget.
fact,
Yeah.
low budget as well. So yeah, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, it's kind of fun to get back to something that is really fun and yet kind of silly at the same time. And so with that, let's jump right into episode 13, which is titled Tokugaron and the Big Monster Army.
Mine is Lizard Drin and the Monster Army.
Yeah, again, man, it's always different titles, it seems like, with most of these shows. Um,
What else is new? Shouldn't be that surprised anymore.
and so this was an episode that I thought it started off promising. More or less, kind of what we were getting was that the shocker leader was somehow, and I know we're not supposed to ask why, resurrecting a number of previous shocker generals
Yeah.
to help out their new shocker general, Lizardron, who is this
It was a
soccer player who got
professional soccer player which got kidnapped by the henchmen of Shocker, and obviously, as we all know throughout the entire series so far, that they turn him into these animal, like
or
animal
playing.
humanoid type hybrids. In a way,
Yeah.
he was turned into this. I'm not sure what kind of specific lizard, but you can tell just obviously by the head and kind of the little dorsal fin going down the spine, tail, everything.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was even more interesting, at least to start off the episode, was that the shocker leader was basically telling the Japanese division that the Japanese division was running behind the progress that the European and North American, or more specifically the United States divisions were. And it got me thinking, I'm like, okay, first and foremost, yes, he's right. The Japanese division is very incompetent because, as we've discussed on a number of occasions, just how easy it is for Kamen Rider and several other people to find the hideouts of Shocker, but then
Hmm.
too, just some of their planning and buffoonery has just made them real, not just easy to find, but easy to defeat
Well,
and to thwart their plans. And
and
then
and I
too, one more quick point I want to make too is that I thought, okay, well, if the Japanese division is so bad, why isn't the show then taking place in either Europe or the United States, where Kamen Rider would be more needed there if Shocker is making more progress in those areas than in Japan? I'm kind of like, this is some kind of ridiculous writing, but okay.
Well, and I think you sort of answered your own question, and I was going to play into this is that like when it comes to those other regions, the Mexican division in that regard, which we'll be getting into in the next couple of episodes, that for whatever reason, the Japanese division was the only one that was trying to make their own like Kamen Rider cyborg, whereas in the other divisions, we don't even know if that was even the case to begin with. And when you have Kamen Rider uh, for in the Japan region, that you have, you know, plans not going right in your direction and everything, knowing that you have him and as well as Tachibana and some of the other guys that are like Taki, who's an FBI agent there, and always finding the bases and foiling their plans and everything. So that's you can say that's the main reasons that we don't know if the other places have made their own Kamen Riders, whereas Japan has.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing, though. My point, though, is that the Japanese division, in and of itself, shoots itself in its own foot at times. That's part of the problem. Second of all, Kamen Rider was supposed to be another Shocker general until it didn't completely go through. That was, well, spoiler alert for what's to come, and for a while, anyways. And we'll get more into this starting in the next episode discussion. Meaning, the next Kamen Rider episode discussion we're going to do for this podcast is that there were two Kamen Rider attempts, and neither one, surprise, surprise, didn't completely get completed for Shocker, in terms of neither one became a full-fledged Shocker general. And as we will find out, spoiler alert, again, starting this next episode of Kamen Rider, we do start to see, or we are told, I should say, that Takeshi Hongo and Ruriko are now globetrotting to stop Shocker in other parts of the globe, starting the episode after this. And there's a small story with that I want to share with people when we get to that. But
Yeah, stop
I just kind of
spoiling
thought
anymore.
but I thought it was not just funny and right on the nose for the Shocker General to basically chastise the Japanese division for their incompetence and buffoonery, but I was kind of thinking to myself too, then why aren't we spending more time elsewhere? Like maybe seeing seeing the Kamen Rider, let's say, in, I don't know, Brazil or the United States somewhere. Yeah, you would still shoot it in Japan, obviously, but you would do the best you can with the limited resources you have to try to pull it off as another country. I would be for that, because then I think the stakes actually would seem greater, because now you're talking about a whole global issue here. And supposedly, according to the Shocker leader, these other Shocker divisions are so much more successful. Whereas, okay, if the Japanese one is so bad, leave it up to the local police, because the Japanese guys here just have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, but yeah, let's get on with the current episode here. So yeah, we've talked about how the professional soccer player gets turned into Lizardrin, and you have Taki and then Ruriko kind of standing by, kind of watching around this atomic energy research lab where they see the suspicious car going around twice. I think it was three
Three
times.
times.
And Ruriko chases them down to this another Shocker base, and Taki catches up to her, goes into this mansion and in this one room you see all the previous henchmen of Shocker,
Shocker General,
Batman, Scorpion Man, Wasp
Spider-Man.
Woman, so on and so forth. Just kind of in their kind of in some sort of suspended animation
They're
in
just
that regard.
faking it, but you can
Yeah,
kind of clearly see some of
yeah,
them.
yeah, and confronts the supposed professional soccer player guy. They talk for a little bit, and then Taki leaves, and then yeah, after that, Ruriko and Taki get ambushed by the henchmen, but then Kamen Rider or slash Hongo come in, confronts Lizardman, but then for whatever reason gets defeated by a lot of rocks getting thrown at
Let's
him.
talk about Lizardron for just 1 second, though. You talk like we've talked about in previous episodes how the new Shocker General of the episode has a certain power or ability. Lizardron, because they got this professional soccer player, Shocker thought, oh, hey, this guy has such a powerful leg. We will turn him into a lizard. And this guy's special ability is going to be able to kick things really hard. And so that, and I kid you not, the only thing Lizardron does to combat Kamen Rider in this entire episode is to kick rocks and occasionally a bomb at Kamen Rider. And here's the thing. A few minutes ago, I said this episode started off really promising because we all were starting to get previous Shocker generals back, and I'm like, oh, this could be a multi-part storyline here. And I was getting really excited because when you've had episodes like this in other series, it's always like a 2, 3, 4-parter, something like that. And I'm like, oh, this could be really fun and exciting. It tanks very quickly because first and foremost, Taki, a normal man, somehow can scale a 10-foot fence by jumping over it.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. And then on top of that, Lizardron's only ability is to kick things hard. Lame. The costume is good. I like the costume and the design of Lizardron. And and thirdly, during the initial fight between Kamen Rider and Lizardron, it maybe only lasts 30, 45 seconds, something like that, where Lizardron kicks boulders at Kamen Rider, and Kamen Rider basically tells the audience, I've lost.
Hmm.
You don't think that when you're in a fight. Like, you don't
Yeah.
think, "Oh, I lost." No, you're doing everything you can to try to fight through it, but he gets defeated so easily.
Hmm.
And not only that, the Shocker generals kinda disappear for a bit. We get weird cutscenes, like, there are weird edits, uh, in several spots of this episode, and I don't know exactly what's missing, but then all of a sudden we cut to Kamen Rider in a very ridiculous training session that he's pulling for himself, where he's
Hmm.
at the base of a steep cliff
Yeah.
trying to get boulders to come down at him so he can try to like learn to leverage his body weight or something and either stop him or kind of like move him off into a different direction. I thought to myself, I go, dude, you don't need to be training on catching boulders. You need to be training on how to avoid them. Catching boulders is not what's going to stop Lizardron. And it's one of the dumbest things I've seen in this series so far. I'm going, Kamen Rider comes off as really stupid here because the way he's going about this is so wrong. I mean, anyone
Hmm.
with half a brain would not be thinking, "Oh, hey, I need to learn how to catch boulders." Okay.
And
And
I
then on
mean, I
top,
mean, he's gone through much more difficult situations than this, like the bomb where he was stuck in a pit, and then you had the bomb, and then it explodes with all that wind,
don't get me
to where
don't get me on that again.
to where he builds up all the wind energy to escape from the pit there.
In like a quarter of a second, he turns into Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
But this episode got dumb and stupid very fast. And not only that, not only did this storyline not become a multi-part episode, but the other Shocker generals get defeated with such ease towards the
Yeah,
end of the episode.
and I think in one of the instances it was the chameleon guy where it seemed like that he did a kick or a punch at the chameleon, and he just like the next scene you see him and then stumbling about and then just falling like face like face plants the ground with all the other previous henchmen.
Yeah, and by the way, when we talked about the Wasp Woman episode, I said the Wasp Woman got the short end of the stick when compared to other Shocker generals. She gets an even shorter stick in this episode. You barely see her in the
Mhm.
episode, and then you see her very quickly at one point in the final fight where she I think tries to jump on Kamen Rider and he punches or kicks her, and then she lands on her back and that's it. I mean, once again, she gets the short end of the stick here. But here, not only is it just a huge disappointment to see this as a one and done storyline, it's terrible in that Kamen Rider's focus as far as how to defeat Lizardron is terrible by trying to think he needs to learn how to stop boulders. Lizardron's only fighting ability is kicking stuff. He doesn't do any other combat. And then the Shocker Generals, some of which we have seen have two, and I think maybe even a couple had three-part storylines. Like Cobra
Mhm.
Man had two, and then a third one, like a few episodes later, are defeated so easily here. Some of these Shocker Generals, Kamen Rider had such difficulties with because they had certain abilities and fighting skills that made it tough for him to defeat them are quickly disposed of. Part of it is because these Shocker generals don't utilize their special abilities. All they do is martial arts. And
And staying around.
yeah, and it's terrible. I just like I said, my hopes got up so high near the beginning of the episode, and then it crashed almost as quickly because once I realized where exactly this was going, I quickly turned on this episode. I said the potential here was wasted. And the writing, yes, the writing has not always been the best. And again, a lot of it's because of the very quick production timeline that these shows go through. But this is what you could do with this kind of idea. I mean, here you have a genius idea. And not only do you make it a one-part episode, you squander it immensely.
Mhm.
And it left a very bad taste in my mouth when I got done. I'm like, son of a bitch, here we are back covering Kamen Rider for the first time in over a month. And this is the first episode. I'm like, oh, this is souring me so fast.
And then with Lizardren, with his only ability to kick things, like Kamen Rider and Lizardren confront each other for only a short period of time after Kamen Rider defeats all the other henchmen, and Lizardren has this sort of uh, like this death ball
It's
sort
a
of thing
bomb, yeah.
that he kicks, and then Kamen Rider just jumps up, does his common kick, and hits Lizardren, and then he explodes, and that was essentially it. That was basically a 1-2 punch to Lizardren. That was yeah, and basically ends the episode there.
Such wasted potential. I mean, I just,
I had a
like I
feeling
said,
that I had a I had a feeling that they probably originally thought about doing maybe a 2, possibly a 3-parter for this one, but I'm guessing that there are some sort of thing behind the scenes and as far as budgeting and story wise and all that, just probably just didn't quite work out in the end, so that they just had to shorten it up. And that's probably one of the reasons why that you might have seen some of those weird editing cutscenes during the episode, and things just didn't quite make sense here and there.
Yeah, because there was one segment where Taki and Ruriko are going through kind of this dirt area, and then Lizardron like is kicking boulders down, and Ruriko warns Taki to watch out, and then the next like few seconds later, you see him with this big bloody spot on his forehead, and you don't see the boulders hitting him or anything like that. It looked like he actually was going to stop in time.
Hmm.
There's some weird editing in a few spots in this episode that makes no sense, and
Yeah.
it's to me it's such a downer episode. This to me is prime example of not just bad writing, but of another prime example of how to completely waste potential on a few ideas that you throw into a story, and to just not even bother to follow through
Hmm.
on it. I mean, um, yeah. Do we want to get into final thoughts and a rating for the episode?
Yeah, might as well. Yeah, just kind of reiterating what Kent has mentioned. It looked really good from the get go. We get to see some of the old Shocker henchmen come back once more, and then with the way how the story was going, it looked pretty good. But then, yeah, downhill, it just seemed really rushed and everything. It would have been better if it was a two, possibly a three-parter type of saga or mini contained saga thing. I don't know how you call it. Yeah, there is Lizardrin is it's a good concept, good design wise, but as far as execution of it, there should have been more to Lizardrin. He should have had more powers than just kicking. Uh, in that regard, because you don't really know of any sort of lizard having some sort of like kicking or leg power type of abilities in that regard. Yeah, and yeah, it just felt really rushed, and the past henchmen and stuff were way underutilized in this. Hence, it should have been two, possibly a three-parter sort of ordeal. So, with episode 13, I would give this one a C minus.
Wow. I thought you would have given it something lower. Okay. What started out as a promising and entertaining episode quickly devolved into a weirdly edited, poorly written story that is a prime example of wasted potential. There are a few weird edits, like when Taki had blood on his forehead as a boulder was coming towards him, yet we didn't see a collision. That makes me wonder if some footage was scrapped for time constraints or another reason. Bringing back 11 previous Shocker generals was where I thought the story would be a lot of fun. Surely this would have to be a multi part episode since some of those generals had powerful attacks, right? I mean, 11 of them would put Ryder in serious mortal danger. Nope. They're quickly dispatched at the end of the episode with poor Wasp Woman once again being given the shortest straw in the bunch. We barely even notice she's part of the rogues gallery here. In Lizard Run, a cool looking general that ends up being a poor excuse for a villain. Being made from a soccer player, Lizardrin's only legitimate attack is his ability to kick things incredibly hard. He kicks them so hard that he gets Ryder to admit defeat to the audience and sends Ryder off to do weird rock goalie practice that anyone who puts an ounce of thought into it is just nonsense and a waste of time considering the potential that should have been this episode. It's a stupid, cheap, wasted potential of a story that sorely needed to be rewritten. It wouldn't have been that difficult to turn this into something magnificent and fun. Instead, we're left with shit, and I gave it an F. I hated this episode so much. I did. For the
It
first
sounded like it.
for the first 2 minutes, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like one of the best," and I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
All right. Episode 14, Raid of the Demon Sabotegron.
Mine is Raid of the Demonic Cactoguron.
All right. So, kind of what I was talking about with the previous episode is starting to sort of be realized here with this episode, in that Cactoguron, based out of the Mexico division of Shocker, um, we're starting to globetrot a little bit. However, not exactly. Like I was saying when we were talking about the previous episode just a moment ago, we are told, starting with this episode, that Takeshi Hongo and Ruriko are going around the globe to stop Shocker in other parts of the globe, and um, and now we're getting other Shocker generals, at least starting with this, because this is a two-part storyline here with Cacto
Mhm.
Giron. We'll see what happens when we cover Kamen Rider in about another month, as far as whether or not they continue this whole storyline with different generals coming in from different parts of the globe.
Mhm.
But the reason why, well, and then we get a new slash second Kamen Rider. Yes.
Yep.
And I have my thoughts on that here in a moment. But the reason why we have this new guy, I think his name is Hayata and
Hayato.
Hayato, and his last name Ichi. It's Ichi something. Ichi.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure uh, either.
I forget
I
the
just
last
typed in
name.
Hayato, but for some reason my damn word thing always keeps replacing his name with Hyatt, like the hotel.
Tell it to stop.
I did. I give it the middle finger.
That'll teach it.
Yeah.
But the reason why we're getting this is because the actor who plays Takeshi Hongo, he ended up breaking both of his legs during one of the motorcycle stunts for an earlier Kamen Rider episode, and obviously became laid up. Why we don't see Ruriko in this episode, the next, I'm not sure. I didn't see anything as far as whether or not she's gone for a long period of time or not, so she might come back soon. She's not going to be back in the next episode we're going to talk about here
Mhm.
after this one, but I'm not sure what happened there. But the actor who played Takeshi Hongo is going to be laid up and won't return until about episode 40 of Kamen Rider. And then by
Damn.
episode 53, this second Kamen Rider guy will be completely phased out by that point. But then starting around, I think it's episode either 71 or 72, and then running for a handful of episodes, he comes back. Then he disappears again. And then towards the end of the series, in the early 90s episodes, meaning like episode 91, 92, 93, that sort of thing, he comes back again.
Seems like he done a little bit of digging after watching this episode.
Well, I did because because I've seen enough of this before with other TV shows to where I'm like, either the guy quit or he got injured or he like maybe was working on another project that took him a while to do. So I did some digging on that and I found out, yeah, he got injured and is going to be gone for a while here. So for a while we're going to have Kamen Rider 2. Now here's my thoughts on Kamen Rider 2. And look, I understand uh, the actor playing Takeshi Hongo. I'm sorry, I don't know the actor's name. I didn't even bother. Sue me. But um,
I will.
research. Um, the writers obviously were not planning this. This sort of thing
No.
just happens, and it's unfortunate that it happened. The unfortunate part, second part about this, is that the writers, as they went about writing the second Kamen Rider storyline, they're they're kind of making the Shocker Japanese division once again look kind of ridiculous, and it's kind of silly because when you think about it, yes.
Yeah, as far as Hayato, his last name is Ichimonji.
Ichimonji or
Yeah,
Munji?
yeah.
Ichimonji? Okay. Um, when you think about it, it makes no sense because it just so happens that two guys who are going to be shocker generals that look like grasshopper cyborgs. Both of them are grasshopper cyborgs. Not only do they look alike, they both end up being Kamen Riders, and Shocker fucked up on
Well,
transforming them again. And so it's like, okay, anytime we try to turn a guy into a grasshopper type of cyborg, it's gonna fail because these guys always find a way to escape. And
well, when it came to Hayato, Kamen Rider 2, apparently he did mention that Hongo came into the base where he
right.
was at and then helped him escape.
Right, but the thing is that they both were going to look exactly the same, and they basically do. I think
There's
though this
there is
guy
some differences in
very
between the
small
2.
differences,
I would
but it's
say,
the same helmet.
yeah.
Although the helmet looks a bit different this time.
As far as Kamen Rider 2's helmet, like the mouthpiece part, that is silver, and then I
It's more
think
sealed too.
and then the overall color scheme for Kamen Rider 2 is more brighter
The
than
stripes like on that shirt are like arranged differently too.
bit brighter, and I think there's sort of kind of a silver stripe or something going on the middle of the helmet, mainly the back part.
Yeah,
But yeah, not other than that, not a whole lot else.
yeah. And I found it kind of funny um with this episode because early on we are told that Tachibana is having like what is he trying to do? He's trying to put together like a motorcycle team or something like that.
Something it
And
sort of seemed like that. Like he was dressed up in like the finest suit there in Japan, and then had some sort of sign displayed out in the storefront, and then he had like one of his employees at the coffee shop there.
I forget the guy's name, but yeah, he's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah, and then he had these three
Three
hot chicks,
girls.
three hot chicks, and then a little kid. I'm not sure if he's been sort of the same kid from
I don't
previous
think so
episodes.
because he came with the girls. The
Yeah,
one Marie is tall. She when I first saw her, I thought she was American,
that's why I thought
but
so
she's
too.
not.
But I have to say she is quite hot though.
Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
And they come back in the next episode and do some funny shit too. So I
Mhm.
mean, I honestly kind of hope that despite the fact I thought this was kind of a dumb idea by Tachibana because I'm like, what the hell? This is the dumbest thing in the world. But when we get to know these female characters, I'm like, they're kind of funny and they're pretty like fun to watch. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm hoping they stick around for a while because they're
Yeah,
fun.
apparently this Marie gal, she's in here from episodes 14 to 25, and then 29 and 38, and that's completely it. But
That's
they
it.
have, yeah, and they have quite a few other ones listed here. And they're called Rider Girls.
Interesting.
And it says female members of the Tachibana Bana Racing Club who assist both common riders. And you have was it one of the Yuri, one of the three gals. She's there for basically the entire series from 14 to the final episode. And then you have this Michi gal. I'm not sure which one is which, but she's only there from episodes 14 to 25, and then you have a few others that come later.
Interesting. But yeah, I mean, I like them. I think they're funny and all that, despite the fact. Tachibana is just kind of an idiot, but at least in this episode. Um, um,
Oh
what do you
well.
make of Cacto Giron?
I think out of the 14 incarnations of the Shocker henchmen, or generals for that matter, I think he's one of the more competent uh, generals in that regard. Seems like he knows what he's doing, which we've seen at the very beginning of the episode there, where he was over at the Mexico base there, destroying all the dams and everything, and then having Shocker recruit him over to the Japan base to take care of Kamen Rider, but as well as kind of continuing on what he was doing over at the Mexico there. So taking care of Kamen Rider, but as well as trying to destroy the dams and everything with this Mexican rose, which is these cactus bombs in a way, kind of a shape of pumpkins in a way, but obviously cactuses.
They're sort of like those round cacti you can find at like a grocery store or something like that, just
Or
bigger.
Earl May's, like these garden stores.
Yeah, yeah, I like Cactoguron. Like I've said it throughout most of this series so far, I like a vast majority of the Shocker general designs,
Hmm.
and Cactoguron is no exception to that. And I like it. I dig it. I like his like his hair, quote
Yeah.
unquote, where it's kind of waved back and lined up and kind of spiky and stuff. It's kind of cool. One of the things, though, I had to kind of chuckle at, and I almost think it was sort of intentionally done as sort of a funny thing, is his sword, which
Oh
is
yeah.
which is a cactus. Imagine like a medieval type sword where you got the big blade and you
Or
got
if you can think of the He-Man power sword in a way, it kind of looks like that design, but cactus version.
yeah, and it's got like two pieces of the cactus coming out on both ends as kind of like the hand protectors on like a
Hmm.
traditional sword. It's so great and
Yeah.
funny, but it's great, and I dig it. I think it's great. This is what a show like Kamen Rider should be. And unlike last episode where I quickly turned on it because it told me to hate it, this episode said, "Look, we made a mistake last time. Here is how we're going to fix it." And I said, "Good job, Kamen Rider. You did a better job this time. I was beginning to wonder with the Tachibana stuff, but you know what? These ladies you brought in here are pretty funny. I'm digging it. Takeshi Hongo, yeah, sucks we're not going to see him. I don't know who the second Kamen Rider is, although as the episode goes on, we start to find out more about him and we realize, oh, this guy's here to stay for a while.
Hmm.
But then, too, we see Cacto Guron and how competent by and large he is. And the weird thing, though, I will say about this episode is that instead of bringing his own Mexico Shocker henchman with him, he uses the Japanese henchmen, which I'm like, okay, why? Because the Shocker leader at the beginning of this episode says, look, like, we need your help over here in Japan. We're having difficulties over here. Can you come on over and help? And I thought, oh, he'll bring over his henchmen. And this, now we're going to start to see competency. And for the most part, we do. But then he doesn't bring his henchmen over and he uses the Japanese henchmen. I'm going, isn't part of your problem, though, is that your Japanese henchmen are also boobs? I mean, I know I'm thinking too much. But here's the thing. And I've said this many times as we talk about movies and shows, is that we I think in order to have these discussions, we have to occasionally bring up these questions, just so people who are not familiar with these shows and movies that we're going through are at least aware of some of the silliness and craziness that we're going up against. I know. You know what? I'm gonna be a Bob Knight and just throw a chair across the room and be like, "Look, you're gonna listen to me here, Buster."
No, no, you always do this shit to me too. And I was trying to explain, so I'm gonna Bob Knight you the next time you do this shit to me.
I hope they bury me upside down so you can kiss my ass.
But I mean, probably the one thing is that they don't even realize that part of the problem is some of the henchmen. Who knows?
Yeah, I know. And look, here's the thing, and I've said this before. I love a good crazy turn off your brain type of TV
Mhm.
series or movie because yeah, the world sucks right now and has sucked for a while and you just kind of want something to escape for a bit. But like I said, I feel like as podcasters it's part of our job to at least bring some of these issues up. Do I really have a problem with it? No, not really. I'm not going to ding the episode for something like that. But I just want to bring it up because it's like it's head scratching because it's like, wait a minute, you're having, but then you're using that's part of your problem here. Like,
Mhm. Yeah,
so
yeah, and but yeah, this episode was pretty good. Obviously, way better compared to the previous episode
that's a very low bar to
here.
begin with, though.
And yeah, uh, and with Cactogira, he's probably one of the more competent, if not the most competent, Chakra General by far. Uh, Up to this point, we'll have to see when we get further into the whole series and whatnot. And but anyways, we have Taki Tachibana and then Hayato uh, pinpointing the chakra base where you it's kind of funny where you have even though it's in Japan and you have this kind of a chakra type of big stone statue thing, you have in some sort of instances around the premise of the chakra base, you have a bunch of cacti, like regular kind of cacti shaped tall plants, and then like your Mexican rose sort of thing. So uh, was a cactogira and kind of did it as like kind of
Minefield
uh,
almost,
sort
but a
of a
very
minefield,
obvious one.
but he said that he was disguising, uh, like, with a lot of dummy versions with some of the actual, cactus bombs.
And what's even funny is that in this episode and the next, his henchmen are guarding the place too, so it also makes it obvious that he's there.
Mhm.
Second of all, they're wearing luchador masks.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. They can't be wearing luchador masks because they're the Japanese division henchmen. They never mentioned I know. They never mentioned like we just got done talking about this. He didn't bring over his own henchmen. I'm like, if he did, I can see them wearing luchador face masks. What the hell? Like, oh, and by the way, that statue, do you remember that statue in the original Ultraman series?
I guess I don't. It's been a while since we've last watched Ultraman.
That statue was part of one of the original Ultraman episodes where it was the Griffin Kaiju. That statue turns in to that kaiju that Ultraman ends up fighting for that episode.
I guess I haven't even
But
noticed.
yeah, I saw that and I'm like, oh, I've seen that. And I'm like, oh, it was the original Ultraman. I'm like, wait a minute, are we getting a multiverse? Are we getting Ultraman and Kamen Rider coming together here? Like,
I don't think so because,
I know we
both are
are.
made by different companies.
I know, I'm just messing around here, but part of me got excited. I'm like, I've seen that.
But yeah, so basically they stumble upon uh, the chakra base, confront the henchmen as well as Cactus Giron or Cacto Giron, and that's sort of where it ends on a cliffhanger where it looked like that Kamen Rider was about to hit one of the cactus plants there, and then it's like you have the narrator, and then credits roll, and then and then that's
which
basically it of episode 14.
I had to laugh because in the last episode, didn't he with his bike, with the front wheel, like, kick Lizardron's bomb away from, like, the atomic energy? Because didn't that happen in the last episode where Lizardron kicked the bomb and then Kamen Rider with his bike, like, the front wheel, like, put like,
Eh,
kicked it, quote, unquote, "back"?
no, he jumped up, not with his bike. I think you're thinking about the first sort of first part of the second bout where he uses his bike,
Oh.
but then he jumps up at the last in the last part of that second bout, uses his common kick, then kicks it like kangaroo kicks it back to Lizard
That would
Dread.
set it off. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be like if you threw a bomb at me and I take a metal baseball bat and I swing it at you, but then you happen to catch it with, like, I
Instead
don't know, like,
instead of the baseball bat, the cactus bat or the sword.
yeah. But no, but my point is this, I use something hard that should make the thing explode when I make contact with it, but instead I hit it, it doesn't blow up, you catch it in two big catcher's mitts, and it lands softly, and then you blow up. Like, I know, but I'm just saying I'm just saying how
Oh,
ridiculous this
my
is.
my only answer is it's tokusatsu science.
I know, and like I said, that's one of the charms of this sort of thing is that, like,
It's a kid show.
well, I know, but not only that, but it's just like we talk about with, like, some of the Godzilla movies and, like, Toho science. Instead, we're talking tokusatsu science. So, yeah, it's like we've said before, if you think about this too much, it's gonna drive you nuts, but like I
Yeah,
said, I
don't
think it's part of our job as
yeah.
podcasters to.
Don't make it turn out like episode 13 for you. But
No, it's not. I don't hate this episode, by the way. I don't. This is a nice step up from that. I like this episode, but let's just get into final thoughts. Let me go ahead and do mine here because I do like this episode here. Um, let's see here. Okay, here we go. We get something that I had hoped the series would follow through on after being introduced in the previous episode. Shocker generals from around the world coming to Japan to stop Kamen Rider, now a Kamen Rider 2. That's right, we're told Takeshi Hongo and Ruriko are hopping around the globe to stop Shocker in other countries, and somehow a second Kamen Rider was made and is the new rider for the time being. The actor playing Hongo suffered two broken legs during the filming of an episode and was laid up for a while. This idea of two riders would continue to prove Shocker's incompetence since they would have created two Kamen Riders that failed to become their generals. It's head scratching and silly to write the story this way. Nevertheless, this episode is a step up from the previous, and Cacto Guron is a unique villain. His cactus sword is hysterically fun, but he proves to be fairly competent. So much so that we will see him in the following episode. In the end, there's some craziness here that makes no sense due to bad focus and writing, but some things got fixed here that were problematic in the previous episode. Around episode 40 is when we're supposed to see Hongo return, and by episode 53, Hayato will be phased out. That is until late in the series when he makes a handful of appearances. And so then I talk about the Griffin, which we already talked about, and I gave this episode a C.
boy. Uh, that's the rating is kind of unexpected. Yeah,
Low.
uh yeah, episode 14 far better than the previous one. Um, yeah, I was kind of wondering why didn't see Hongo, so obviously got to know the answer to that. I could have thought that yeah, he probably had some other engagements. Uh, in that regard, but obviously didn't realize they broke both of his legs during production. And then, yeah, not sure what happens to Ruriko. So we'll have to find out later on when we watch the entire series. Um, yeah, it's interesting that another Kamen Rider was made. So obviously that had to be put in to the whole story writing after the Hongo guy had his little incident there. But otherwise, it didn't seem like it really strayed too far from the original. Obviously, the original story plot and everything. It seems like things have gone smoothly. Us getting a little bit of the backstory with Hongo and Ruriko, traveling around the world, trying to take care of some of the other chakra bases, and Cactogiran. Really like the design of the chakra general, and as far as execution, far better than Lizardren in that regard, and one of the more, if not the most, competent general by far in the series. So, uh, probably kind of put him up on the pedestal and kind of compare him to the other generals in the future when we watch those, and then maybe towards the end when we end the series, maybe kind of compare which one was the most to least competent shocker general. We'll have to see when it gets around to that point. But
By the way, we have 98 total episodes of Kamen
yep.
Rider, so this is going to be a while, and I don't think we're going to remember even a sliver of them by the time we get to the end.
Well, we aren't going to rank from like least like the top 98. We'll probably
And
do
we
like the
actually
least.
should. We
Probably
actually
pick.
should.
You know what? Shut up. We'll probably try to decide maybe from between the both of us which one, at least one of the 98 is the least competent, and then which one of the 98 was the most competent. But in that regard, I give episode 14 a B.
All right, now episode 15, the last one we're going to discuss for this podcast episode, is titled Counterattack Sabotegron, or
Counterattack Cactogaron.
yeah, that's yep. I I like how this episode starts off in that Hayato gets a present, and you know this is not going to go well, and Marie comes in.
Before he gets the present, we find out, it continues on with the bout and
Oh,
everything.
that's yeah.
And obviously, Kamen Rider jumps in the middle of the air to avoid hitting one of the cactus bombs out there. And then, uh, was it Cactogaron throws a cactus bomb? No, 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 no. He actually kicks Cactogaron into one of his own cactus bombs, and then it explodes, and that was it. And then now, Cactogaron sends these quote unquote presents to both Hayato's and Tachibana's places there.
Yeah, and Marie comes in to Hayato's little room there, all excited about a present. And this is where a little bit of misogyny comes into this series, and we've talked about this in the past with like Wasp Woman, but she comes in like, "Oh, hey, you got a present," and she plays kind of this stereotypical, overly excited bimbo type of female where she's like, "Oh, like a little cactus," and it's one of those Mexican rose cactus bombs. We
Hmm.
know what it is. Obviously, Hayato knows what it is. She's getting ready to like touch it or mess with it, and Hayato has to prevent her quickly from touching it. And so he just picks it up and he throws it out the window and it blows up. And she's like, "Ah!" Like, it just, it's so funny, actually. I just thought it was funny. He's like, "No, wait." And he kind of lifts it up gently. And then he winds up and chucks it. It's so funny how it goes.
And then we get the another scene where you have the two other common or rider gals along with uh, Tachibana's employee there opening up the present. Is like, oh my
At the
god,
snack
what is this?
shack.
And then you had Tachibana come out, kind of all groggy, brushing his teeth, and then he looks at it, it's like, oh no, it's one of the cactus bombs thrown out. And then you had Hayato and Mori come in, but then they find one of the
Hayato
suspicious guys.
barely, because one of them
Oh
throws
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
cactus bomb, and Hayato just so happens to come in and
Just in the nick
diving
of
at the
time.
same
Yeah,
time and catches it, but like an inch or two before it hits the ground.
yeah, in the nick of time, and then they spot this suspicious motorcyclist, and you had a couple of the gals chase down this guy, but then they get ambushed by Cacto Garens' henchmen there, and but then for whatever reason, Hayato was apparently like he mysteriously uh was around that area, like this kind of this dirt field. You don't even know how he got there to begin with, but
Yeah.
then that's besides the point. He turns into a Kamen Rider, defeats Cacto's henchman, saving the two women there, uh, and as well as capturing one of the henchmen that suspicious motorcyclist, and he had back at Tachibana's place. He had Tachibana's employee watching over this one guy there, and he's kind of a scaredy cat as well. And then he hears his door kind of slowly opening, and he's like, "Oh, please don't hurt me or anything." And and then you have the three gals arriving. Then they said, "Oh well, we'll watch over him and everything." But then uh, all of a sudden, Cacto infiltrates their place from underground, defeats uh, he knocks all three of the gals out, saves his henchmen and everything. So it's kind of a back and forth uh, sort of thing. And then next off, you have Taki infiltrating Shocker's base once again.
Very easily.
Yeah, he disguises himself as one of the henchmen, goes into the main control room area where Cacto Garen was coming up with a plan to destroy the dam or other dams in Japan, and gets easily found out, captured, and I don't know, it's tokusatsu science or something of the matter. Like they're was it Shocker, the leader of Shocker, is saying, we'll put Taki in a cell to have him as bait to lure Kamen Rider, but one of the other henchmen turns out to be Kamen Rider. You don't even know how he infiltrates, disguises himself. You just out of middle of nowhere. Tokusatsu science.
Tokusatsu logic is what that
For
is.
that too.
Yeah, I mean, again, as someone who is 38 years old, but is like a 12-year-old trapped in a 38-year-old man's body. um, but then also, here's the thing too. I think part of it is being older and just you kind of see things a little bit differently than you did when you're younger.
Mhm.
You understand things a little bit more as well. But then, too, I listen to a lot of movie review podcasts, especially a couple that dive deep into the intricacies of filmmaking as far as editing, how a story is written, and how it should progress or turn out, and things like that. And I think for me, listening to some of those over like 11, 12 years now, I think it's kind of messed with my head a little bit as far as how I look at most movies now, because now I'm finding myself more and more like noticing things that I didn't quite before. So I
Yeah.
think I've been sort of conditioned to subconsciously be this critic and spotting things that I normally would be like, eh, meh. And now I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. But like, I'm still like, I'm not a harsh critic. I still give things the benefit of the doubt. And like I've always said, know the movie and the show that you're getting yourself into. Like, I wouldn't judge, let's say, a movie like Super Pets the same way I would judge a movie like I don't know, Godfather or something like that. Those are two different types. You got to understand what you're getting yourself into. So you kind of talk about them and sort of judge them on separate merits. Um, and with this, it's like, okay, yeah, it drives me nuts that I see these
Mhm.
flaws, but at the same time, I find it kind of fun because, hey, it's silly, it's goofy. At times, it makes me laugh, even though some of this stuff isn't supposed to be all that funny. But it kind
Mhm.
of is because you're like, wait a minute, that's stupid. That makes no
Yeah.
sense. But yeah, I mean, this was another good episode. I mean, again, like I said here with the discussion of the previous episode, I'm enjoying these three gals. Sad to hear that they're not going to be around very long, but um,
At least
I've
one of
been,
them. At least one of them is there throughout, the entire series, though.
yeah, and it's just too bad that at least a couple of them are going to be gone here at some point.
Mhm.
But I'm digging this Cacto Guron thing. Yeah, you know, none of these episodes are award-winning type of material in terms of
Oh,
writing
no.
or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
But unlike episode 13, these final two episodes that we're covering for this podcast are a lot better. They're better written, they're more fun. It's the perfect example of what a series like this should be doing. And it's not the complete wasted time and potential that episode 13 was.
Yeah. By the way, what did you think of, was it in the final bout between Kamen Rider and Cactagaren? What did you think of, Cactagaren going all Rambo with all of his, Mexican rosé bombs strapped onto him and then using his, cactus sword?
I liked it. I mean, like I said, I like Cacto Guron. I like that look. I mean, like I said, his hair, like his quote unquote hair. I can't, like, I'm like, that's so badass and so cool. And the way he looks, I like it. I like it an awful lot. I love it not only because it looks cool, I also like it because it's absurd. And
Mhm.
this is what I come to watch something like Kamen Rider for. I want to see silly, goofy things like this. And I enjoy it. We have not had a shocker general up to this point do something kind of like that.
Mhm.
And I dig it. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
So,
It
yeah, that's
tickles my
a
fancy.
I bet it does. So, do you wanna dive into, final thoughts on episode 15?
Yeah, so this is going to be like one of the shortest ones ever. All right, a relatively fun episode that continues to illustrate how formidable Cacto Guron is as a villain. Unfortunately, I can't say too much more about the episode that makes it overly exciting or even dull. It's an okay episode that does what it's supposed to do, and I gave it a C plus.
Wow, I would expect you to at least go with, a B for these, last 2 episodes.
You know what? Here, I'll change. Oh fuck! I already closed it. Never mind. I will. I will change my grade for this last one. I'll make it a. I'll make it a B plus. I
There
still
we
think.
go.
I still think the first Cacto Guron. I think part of it is because it was still whiplash inducing that you just all of a sudden not see Hongo and the whole idea that we're
Or
and
probably
again.
episode 13 was sort of, kind of
Well, no, it's not the aftertaste of episode 13. It's at the time before I knew what happened to the actor. I thought, well, if they're globetrotting, why aren't we following Hongo and Ruriko globetrotting to combat not just other shocker generals in other countries, but supposedly tougher. Well, then when I found out, oh, the guy's injured, that's why we're not following him. I'm like,
Mhm,
okay. But I still thought the way they wrote it was not the best.
mhm. Yeah, so coming off of episode 14 for me with episode 15, I think it gets better from here. Uh, you see Cactagiran, he seems more competent this time around and get more introduced to the Rider girls here. Not a whole lot else going on. It's just continuation of episode 14, but kind of a little bit more craziness going on. And then you having Cactugiron going all Rambo uh, at the end there, strapping himself with the Mexican rose bombs there. Yeah. Um, uh, and it's an I would say episode 15 is probably the best episode of the three batches that we've reviewed today. Um,
Which again is not a very high bar,
so
sadly.
so a rating for episode 15 for me is also B plus.
All right. And so with that, we conclude episode 156, our review of 3 more episodes of Kamen Rider.
157.
Is it?
Yep.
Fuck. Um, so we'll be back come February 11th, and this time um, we will do 3
Spectre
episodes of
Man.
Spectre Man. Yes. So we will be back for that.
Indeed. So just to kind of close things out, again, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you see the red subscribe button down below, make sure to hit that as well as hit the like button down below for this video, and as well as hit the notification bell icon to get updates whenever we upload uh, new videos, and as well as whenever we go live there. And you can find us everywhere at our link tree URL right on your screen there, linktree/Daikaiju Network. And besides YouTube, as far as video platforms that we're on, we're also on Twitch, Rumble, Facebook Live, and as well as Odyssey. And we have audio versions of our episodes on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. And we have both video and audio versions of our episodes right on our own website at daikaijunetwork.com.
So there's no rhyme or reason for any of you ever to miss us, damn it.
No, we are everywhere.
Daikaiju Network is watching you. And so with that, thank you so much for watching or listening to us, and we will be back in a couple weeks to discuss Spectre Man.
All right, guys. Take it easy. We'll see you in a couple weeks.